Time now for the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
Welcome to the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on WYKR, serving Northeast Vermont and Northwest New Hampshire. I'm Josh Smith, and we've got a real mix of local tradition and big-time adventure lined up for you today. Gary Moore sat down earlier this week with three North Country women, Dr. Joyce Dobbertin of St. Johnsbury and Patty Emery and Larissa Flynn of Lyndon, to talk about their recent trip to Antarctica, along with other incredible adventures they've taken around the world. It's a conversation that proves you don't have to be far from home to have a real sense of adventure. And we'll also check in on the start of the maple season on our sugaring report, featuring on my conversation with Mark Isselhardt, who is the UVM Extension Maple Specialist from the Proctor Research Center, on what producers are seeing right now. And don't forget, too, we also hear from Mark Breen at the Fairbanks Museum on the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge forecast. So we got another packed one for you. So strap in, grab your drinks, whatever, be your chamomile or whatever you want to drink, or your brew, because you're going to sit here for an hour and listen to some great conversations. So we're going to get started right now.
Good evening. Welcome to Thoughts on the Outdoors. My guests tonight are three ladies whom I've long known and admired for their adventures and often envied what they were doing. With me tonight are Dr. Joyce Dobbertin from St. Johnsbury, Patty Emery from Lyndonville, and Cece Flynn, also from Lyndonville. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Yes.
The reason I first contacted you three of you to ask you if you would be on the program is because of your recent trip you took to Antarctica. So I'd like to start with that. Any one of you.
I'd like to start just because I was really hesitant about going. And I am so glad that Patty and Joyce asked me to go. So that maybe can get us started.
A trip of a lifetime?
It really was. Absolutely amazing.
So I guess we planned this for about a year.
Yes.
And it takes that long sometimes to get your reservations and everything all lined up.
But it was pretty amazing. It was just pretty amazing once you stepped onto the ship, how wonderful it was. They call it an expedition, and I'm not really certain what's the difference between an expedition and a cruise, but it was wonderful. Twice a day we got off the ship, we went on to land, we went in a Zodiac and went around. It was really incredible.
And I can give a little information on the difference between an expedition and a cruise, since I've done both. And expedition, I mean, we were with guides who were teaching us and instructing us about the Antarctic, about the very little flora, but there was some, and the animals. On a cruise, you're eating, drinking, touring, but not as educational.
Okay.
Or
So a big part of this was the educational aspect.
Very much so.
We had wonderful guides. They were so knowledgeable.
And we had, after we would have our trips on the Zodiacs, we would have a briefing afterwards, and we learned everything from penguins to snowflakes and krill and ice. I mean, it was just very, very instructive.
How many people were on this expedition?
About
150-ish. And then yes. So it was a small ship, which was wonderful because we got below the Antarctic Circle, which the bigger ships can't get there.
In there.
Plus, we were able to get off the ship often.
Right.
Sometimes we just jumped in the water.
Yeah, they can only have 100
of us
people
did.
at a time on these islands.
Uh-huh.
So we would go out there before groups, 2 groups at a time
Sure.
would go out. And if it was a larger ship, they wouldn't be able to go where we went.
Right. So you basically broke up into smaller groups.
And there were about 10 people per Zodiac on this particular trip.
Right.
And every time we went out, we had a name tag in our jacket, and it had a
code.
Yeah. And we would get scanned, and every time we came back in, we would get scanned. So they knew they had us all back
Yeah,
on the
that's
ship.
good. Yeah.
Always good to not stay out
Yeah.
there unplanned.
Right. And the other thing that was kind
When
of
the ship
interesting.
leaves, you realize I'm still out with the penguins.
Right. Well, and the other thing that was interesting, Patty and I were talking about this on the way down. We almost wore the jackets that come as part of the cruise. And they're bright yellow green, and definitely when you were arriving at one of the landings, and you can see the people who've landed ahead of you really stick out in the snow, and that's, I think,
Planned.
Yeah.
And when we came back here, if we needed to direct traffic, we were all set.
Oh, you mean you can get jobs this summer as flaggers on the various paving jobs?
Exactly.
Pay for the next trip.
Yeah.
Look, I noticed you mentioned something about the water. I saw a video of Joyce jumping in the water, diving in the water.
Cece and I didn't.
I taped that because, that was my excuse for not doing the plunge. But Joyce was very brave.
Well, I was actually surprised at how many people that did not know how to swim but did that. It was really quite amazing.
Is that right?
Yeah.
They were tethered.
Yeah, I saw the tether.
You're on a leash. You kind of feel like woof woof. But
Yeah, I saw that video before you ever got back here the first time.
I think Bob might have sent it to you.
Yeah,
But
I was impressed. I noticed, however, you didn't stay all that long in the water.
no, I was not wanting to swim around and do
When you
laps.
hit the water, the shiver went up my spine.
So that was fun, and it was also fun just to stand in line, and when you got back on the ship, they had a little shot of vodka for you to down and get warmed up.
Yeah. So you could say you've been swimming in the Antarctic.
I did the polar plunge for
The
real.
polar plunge for real, absolutely. So once a day, generally you took a Zodiac trip to shore or to...
Once on shore, and then once we would cruise around ice floes and bergs and seals and penguins and
Were there any
whales.
other birds other than penguins?
Skewers.
and close to
That white winter bird.
yeah no the ones up in Maine that people cormorants,
Oh, commerce?
and the cormorants there looked very much like the penguins.
Is that right?
One of the excursions that we were on, we had been taught that there are three different variety of penguins, genus of penguins, and so our guide in the Zodiac said, "Now, who can tell me what kind of penguins these are?" Well, they weren't penguins; they were cormorants. But
They were the skewers.
no, they were the cormorants. And they looked just like penguins, except they had wings, and they're not water birds. They're flight birds.
They also said they were evolving
Well,
to be more like penguins.
You know what? Their name they're like cormorants. They're in that family. So that's probably the species name.
They live on fish, like cormorants, normally, and
Yeah.
they dive for fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think they probably eat a lot of that krill too, right?
Yes, I think there was a lot of krill that they were eating.
We didn't eat any krill.
No, in fact, they were really telling us the dangers of taking too much krill out of the ocean because of the animals and etc. And I guess you use it for omega-3 tablets, is the krill.
Petrol.
And they were just saying
That's
this
what I
is
think
just
of krill.
depleting the supplies.
How long were you actually in Antarctica?
It's 9 days, right?
Yes.
Well, we got down there 2 days after Christmas, and we got home.
But-
we got home. We got off the ship, I think, the 10th.
Yeah, we were actually on the boat 9 days.
Okay.
Now, where did you board the boat?
No, we were on 11 days.
11 days, right. We boarded in
Ushuaia.
Ushuaia.
Ushuaia. Which is in Tierra del Fuego, the southernmost part of
I know.
Argentina.
I know where that is. Okay.
Yeah.
So you boarded the vessel there,
And then we took the Beagle Strait and to the Drake Shake, or the Drake Lake, which is a passage from South America to Antarctica.
right.
And it's supposed to be the most dangerous and the worst water that there is in the world.
when it's really bad.
We were pretty lucky.
We were very lucky.
Two were
Well, a
lucky.
lot of ships that used to have to go around the tip of South America disappeared there.
Yes, they
over the
did.
years.
Or
They did.
Yeah.
There were a lot of shipwrecks there.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Can
because
you
it's-
imagine going around in a sailing ship trying to navigate by a...
But we read Shackleton before we left.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we wouldn't have planned to be there that long. We were very fortunate with the weather because it was usually in the 30s, and here at home at the same time it was in the single digits or below zero.
Right.
Yeah, Mike.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Of course, it's the other side of the world.
And it was their summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had plenty of daylight.
Yes.
We had
All day
all
late.
daylight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But it was nice that we had really good weather too.
We did, and it was sunny some days, and which was beautiful just to see the water and the icebergs and the blue sky behind it. It was beautiful.
So seals, a lot of seals.
Yes, there were a lot of seals that we saw. They were a little smelly.
But really the penguins, there were a ton of penguins.
And they were
Thousands.
absolutely amazing, sliding on their bellies down into the
Sure.
water. And when they're like dolphins. When they're in the water, they're in and out,
Right.
in and out of the water. I mean, they're absolutely amazing.
Great. Great.
At
I think
one-
that's a good place to take a pause.
It's a St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
At R&L Archery, we know it's not just about the thrill of the hunt or the size of the fish. It's about the moments that matter most, the traditions passed down from one generation to the next, and the stories told by the fire long after the sun is set. It's about the journey, the memories, and the time spent together with friends and family, because these are the moments that truly last a lifetime. R&L Archery, where every adventure begins. Come create your story.
This is Sonia from Bachelor Carpentry. March into spring with Bachelor Carpentry. Now is the time to plan your spring projects, whether it's a new deck for summer barbecues or a sunroom to enjoy the early spring blooms. We specialize in turning your plans into reality with precision and care. Head to vtcarpenter.com today to start your journey towards a beautiful home this spring.
Welcome back to Thoughts on the Outdoors. My guests tonight are Joyce Dobbertin, Patty Emery, and Cece Flynn. When we took a pause there, we were talking about the wildlife, and let's continue with that for a minute.
So we saw leopard seals.
Yes.
They're big, right?
They are big.
And Weddell seals,
Weddell, yeah, because we were in the Weddell Sea,
right?
right?
And then penguins, 3 different types of penguins.
Right.
Lots and lots.
The Adelie, the chinstrap, and the
Gentoo.
Gentoo, right?
What was kind of interesting is one night Patty and I slept on the landmass, and you know, I camp a lot, but I'm used to bugs, and there are no bugs in Antarctica.
Wait a minute now. Tell us a little bit about sleeping on land or on the ice.
Well, we had to dig our a hole, but it was rectangular,
When
and
you say dig, is that snow or ice?
it's snow. It was
So-
snow. Yeah,
okay.
it wasn't tough digging, but they told us not to dig too far because we also had to fill it back in when we left. So they provided us with a pad to put on the bottom of our dugout, as Joyce calls it, grave, and we had a sleeping bag, and we had another sack that all went into
A bivvy.
a bivvy. And then I personally took my heavy parka cloth that they give us and wrapped it around my feet and legs. So, and it did snow overnight, so we had to cover our heads.
It was kind of interesting because that was the only time that it snowed while we were down there was when we were
Fly around
outside.
there in the open.
Yes, yes.
In those graves you dug.
In our graves, yeah.
And one of the things that Patty told me, because I didn't want to do that experience, was, and I'm not sure if it was after you dug those holes, but they have to fill them in because if the penguins got in, they wouldn't be able to get out.
Well, that's right, sure.
Well, they told us that on any of the places we
Any,
went,
yeah.
stay on the path, because if we post hole, it's too difficult for the penguins.
The penguins don't climb or
Right,
Right.
right.
they more or less waddle.
Exactly,
They do.
exactly.
Yeah.
I guess another experience that I shared with Patty and Joyce was we got to kayak, and it was just very interesting being close to the water, getting close up to the ice foes, and it was.
I really enjoyed it. There was a group that we weren't with because we went out again in 4 different groups. That the whales were right there.
They were underneath the kayaks, going underneath.
What type of whale?
Orcas and humpbacks.
Okay, yeah.
And thinking about the whales, when they were coming back, I was on the ship and I had this observation deck all to myself, and I could see the whales blowing out in front of the ship and then diving and seeing their flukes. And it was just very, very exciting.
They're pretty impressive critters.
And, yeah.
I've been out in very small boats in Alaska and up in Churchill, Manitoba, and I know what you're talking about. When you're in a kayak,
when you're in a kayak, there's not a lot of.
Yeah. If they happen to come up under you, you'd be just like a little piece of driftwood.
And that reminds me of one of our guides telling us when we were in a Zodiac about the icebergs calving, and some are gigantic. They are absolutely like islands, and if you are near one when it calves, you could also be in trouble.
Yeah. We didn't go too terribly close to them because
sometimes closer than I wanted to be.
Because if they do, it's like a tsunami. The wave is like a tsunami. Right. So.
But anytime we were out of the boat, except for when we did the polar plunge, we had to have a life jacket on us. Everybody had life jackets on us. They didn't inflate unless you went in the water. And if you fell in the water, whatever, then they would automatically inflate.
You didn't have to pull the cord to make it inflate.
No, but you could if they didn't inflate and you were in the water.
And we had 2 different kinds of life jackets. One when we were just in the Zodiac, and then when we kayaked, we had to put a wetsuit on.
Sure. What was the water temperature most of the time?
It was about 30 because of the salt. It was below 32.
Yeah.
Cold.
You wouldn't last in that water very long without your dry suit or wetsuit. Yeah.
Right.
And I think another thing.
Well, actually, that's what I was thinking when I saw the video of you diving in. I thought, no wonder they got a tether.
Yeah. Well,
so the shock could put some people could free. Just.
And actually, there was a doctor that was standing right there for everybody when they would go off. For me, doing a polar plunge isn't a big leap for me, but for a lot of these people, they had never done anything like that.
Sure.
And I know what it's like to be cold because I start water skiing here in April, so I'm in water that's 35 degrees. But these people have never been in water that's 35 degrees, and so it was really good to be
This person never will be.
Well, another great experience. While we're at a break before recording, you people were talking about just the beauty of the area.
Right.
I think you said it's not just black and white.
It isn't. The ice is blue and green in all different shapes from the wind and the water, and some of them were dirty looking because they can flip over. So the ones that have flipped are bringing dirt up from the bottom with rocks and stuff. So.
And there was some moss and lichen, so sometimes we'd see oranges and golds and green, but that was about all as far as
and then when the sun was out, would reflect.
Yes.
Sun's always out, the difference between bright sun and overcast.
Yeah.
Huh.
And sometimes the atmosphere when it wasn't bright sun was almost haunting. And I think that probably comes from my mind having dealt with Shackleton.
Ernest Shackleton,
Yes.
I wouldn't want to have been on that.
No, me neither.
Oh, we did also go to some abandoned research stations.
I was just thinking that.
So that was interesting.
And
now, what countries' research stations?
Some were British.
French, Norwegian.
Maybe? I don't know.
Yes, I think you're right.
Norwegian.
And there are still cans of food on the shelves.
Yeah.
Skis left behind.
One of them,
just
they
abandoned.
had to leave within 2 hours. Now, I don't know why they did, and there was probably 20 people there. And so it was you could see the beds, you could see the kitchen. It was actually pretty, boots, skis, all sorts of stuff. So I'm not really sure if they were just waiting around to get rescued or what the deal was.
Well, I mean, my understanding is that for many of these expeditions or research, that there's a period of several months that they can't get off.
True.
I think
True.
that might, well, that's going to be true there, but I know it's particularly true when you get below the Antarctic Circle,
Right.
where they actually still have people there all year.
Yes.
Right.
In 1999, there was 1999, there was a woman there that was the doctor.
Right.
And she found a lump on her breast and ended up needing to do the biopsy and the chemo and things herself because she could not get off.
I remember that story well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we read the book while we were down there,
Okay,
which was
yeah.
really quite interesting.
Yeah.
We read a lot of books about the Antarctica while we were there.
Before and after.
And really, we were just on one very small area
Right.
of the Antarctic. I mean, where Shackleton was way south of where we were. Or would it be west?
Yeah, we're upside down, right?
Exactly.
But it wasn't all work. We also would take beers and go into the hot tub and,
Wasn't
and
all
watch.
How about the food? That's what I'm always interested in.
Food was really good.
Good.
The food was beyond. In fact, I was embarrassed because I ordered a dessert, which was an oyster with. That was the way it was described.
Mm-hmm.
And when it arrived, I was like, "This isn't what I ordered." And then I started to think it was chocolate that they had made into an oyster shell.
okay.
And I mean, the filling was incredible, and it was a work
It was
of
a
art.
meal itself.
Well, that and just a work of art.
Wow.
We were also there New Year's Eve. And
Oh, okay.
for me, what was really fun was they had a party upstairs for the guests, and then they had a party for the crew downstairs. And I, with other new friends, went down with the crew. That party was a lot more fun.
And Joyce and I were sleeping.
Yes, oh boy, we slept a lot. But we had a balcony, so you could just go
Sure.
out there and watch things go by. And
Great.
it was beautiful.
Well, I think that's a good place for us to take another pause.
It's the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
Winter in Vermont is a great time to get outside and explore. It offers experiences for a wide range of abilities and interests. The Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department provides opportunities to take advantage of what the season offers. Visit vtfishandwildlife.com to plan your next winter adventure. You can sign up for a free ice fishing clinic, watch how-to videos, or find a wildlife management area near you for a quiet snowshoe stroll. Vermont Fish and Wildlife is here to help you get outside and experience the outdoors this winter.
The Autosaver Group's St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram asks, do your outdoor adventures take you to where you wish you had a four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive? At St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, explore their vast inventory of adventure-savvy four-wheel drives and all-wheel drive vehicles ready for you to drive at home. Plus, every St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram deal includes the Big Deal Plus, which is a 2-year unlimited scheduled maintenance plan, which includes free state inspections for life. Stop in today in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, or shop St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram online at stjohnsburycdjr.com.
Welcome back to Thoughts on the Outdoors. Again, with me tonight are Joyce Dobbertin, Patty Emery, and Cece Flynn. We've been talking about their recent trip to Antarctica, which was truly a great experience. Would you go again? Or, I mean, there's only so many things you could do in so much time. But
Well, and that's the thing is that we tend to go to other places just because we like to see other places
Right.
too. This was absolutely wonderful. Half the adventure was getting there because our first plane was late, and then the next plane got canceled while we were standing in line to get on the plane. Then we went on, we were able to make reservations on another airlines because if we didn't get down there, we would have missed our ship.
right,
And there's no getting on it after you've
right. Once
left
it's left port,
that you can't get on it. So we wanted to get down there, and unfortunately our luggage didn't make it with us. So we had almost zero luggage. You were smarter, and you had a
Lucky.
carry-on.
But Buenos Aires temperatures was supposed to be 90 where we
Yes.
landed. And so we were not dressed in Buenos Aires for Antarctica.
Right.
Which was a problem.
Yes.
So we headed out shopping because we had to, and tried to pack what we had packed for 2 weeks, at home. That took us 2 weeks to pack. We tried to do that in 2 hours.
And when we arrived in Ushuaia, that's when we went shopping, and that was the only day that there was rain. And we were supposed to go on a tour and a luncheon, which we had to get clothes.
Right. And they have siestas down there. So
Siestas, and it was Sunday too. So it was Sunday. It was siesta time that we were there.
And people on the ship lent clothes, and everyone was just so thoughtful to us. And we almost became famous. Oh, you're the people whose luggage didn't come.
And so that we also got to raid the Lost and Found.
Yes, I had a T-shirt from Lost and Found and some dry pants.
Yeah.
Rain pants.
Did you fly out of Boston?
Yes.
To where?
Miami.
Miami is where all hell broke loose.
That's where the next flight got canceled? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, we were late and we would have missed that flight, but the flight from Miami to Buenos Aires was delayed also. And we were lucky. We were very lucky because our flight was the next gate over that was going to Buenos Aires. So we flew into Boston, had to just go one gate over, and unfortunately, standing in line, ready to get on, and they just put canceled up there.
They didn't have a pilot. So.
But Joyce was incredible in making arrangements with another airline and everything. It was like an Oreo sandwich. The dark side was coming and going. The best part was in the middle when we were on the ship. So it was all good eventually.
Yeah, it was good. And you didn't have to worry about what you wore because you only had two things.
Right.
You either wore it or it was washed.
And unlike cruise ships, there were no dress-up nights or any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
So we fit right in.
Do other cruises go to other parts of Antarctica? Antarctica's huge, but
they don't go down as far as we were.
Because of the size, most of them are
Yes.
larger ships.
Yes.
Well, they can't get into the interior where we were because the channels,
Right,
I guess, weren't open.
and I know Viking, they still can do some on-land expeditions, but the other boats, they just too many people to get off. But it was interesting. I think the week after we got back, a ship became enclosed in ice, and they had to send icebreakers to one of the ships like ours. It wasn't the same company, but we were lucky. We were there at perfect timing.
Great. So it sounds like you did your homework as far as choosing the right outfitter or right.
No, it was just by chance.
Is that right?
Yeah.
We were very happy with them, though.
We generally travel by chance.
Sometimes not so good, but
But always interesting.
Sure.
Yep.
And we've lived to tell about it.
Yes. Always nice.
Yeah, that's good,
Well, we started out traveling, doing about 100-mile hike through Scotland.
Yep.
We did the West Highland Way through Scotland, and that was what got us going on all these different adventures.
So how long ago is this? You've been hiking. You've been
That
doing.
was 2005.
I'm gonna say a long time.
Yeah. So when we went through Scotland, our first hike, we overpacked. Our packs didn't fit right. And we didn't book ahead, but in the middle, or after a couple of days, somebody booked us through because they said, you're not going to find a place to stay in Fort Williams if you're not booked through. So we were fortunate there, which we usually are fortunate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting to just meet the different people and how everything works out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So sometimes, although we didn't have our luggage, one time when we were doing the hike across England from coast to coast.
Oh, that wasn't that long ago, right?
No, that was maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, you walked across England.
Yes, well, we walked across England, and the airlines lost our luggage
For 5 days.
for 5 days. And
Oh,
when you're hiking, I mean, you
You
need
have a
very
thing about
specific
luggage and airlines,
Oh
right?
yes,
Just one airline.
yes. But when we got to
Not
that,
to be mentioned.
to the fourth place, the fourth night, the person said, "Oh, you lost your luggage. You're gonna want it. You're gonna want to eat in the bar, not in the dining room." and then she also offered to wash all of our clothes.
It's like
So, yeah, we
An
don't want,
end-
we don't want
yeah.
you in the dining
an
room.
end-to-end hiker on the AT.
Yes.
You know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not in my living room.
Right.
In our dining room, right?
yep.
So tell us about some of the other adventures you've had.
Well, Joyce actually went swimming in the Antarctic Sea before that because that flows up through the Galapagos Islands.
Sure. Oh, you've been to the Galapagos?
Yes, we have.
Oh, you both have. Okay.
Yeah.
All of you.
And
Oh.
then 3 of us, Easter Island, which was pretty amazing.
Right, Easter
And one of the most fascinating things for me is I've always thought that those statues face the sea. They actually face inland. But we went to the beach there, and I was surprised at how far south we were. The water was very warm, and just beautiful people, beautiful country.
This was at
Easter Island.
East. Okay.
Yeah.
But then Madagascar was another one of my favorites. And I was just reminded of, remember when we went to see the chief?
Oh my goodness. We had, we went to this one village and the chief was there, and we didn't think anything of it. We sat on the benches, and they said, no, you would be better off sitting down here because our heads were higher
Than the
chief's.
chief's.
So we needed to sit down.
And we were also told to bring gifts for the children. And the
But
gifts.
no candy.
No candy.
Well,
no
they
candy.
didn't say no candy. We just decided candy wasn't a good thing. So we brought them pencils and
Almonds and different things.
they didn't have a clue what the almonds were.
Yeah. They were wondering, do you plant these?
But the other thing in Madagascar, the lemurs, we saw every variety
They
of.
loved you.
Yeah,
Yes,
they
did. They were always all around you and on your
on you.
shoulders.
And on me and licking me, and they were just, and they're so light. But they're absolutely amazing. And then we spent a couple of days on the strait between Africa and Madagascar.
Mozambique?
Yeah.
Mozambique Strait.
Yes, and we went snorkeling, which was pretty amazing.
And it was one of my favorite holidays. It was called the Monday after
The day
Easter.
after Easter.
Yeah.
And everything was closed, and all of the people that lived there went to the beach. So it was just us three
just like,
white girls, and
well,
the rest of them.
What holiday is this? They went.
It's the Monday after Easter. And
Well.
it was fun because you got to see how they actually lived rather
Sure.
than,
Wonderful. Well, that's what
Being
you
told-
go for, to
Yes.
learn, right?
yes.
But
Learn about
they
different
were
cultures and
very impoverished. They,
it was
Yeah,
the
definitely
poorest
third
country
world.
that we've
yeah.
ever been
I mean,
to.
we'd drive by and they'd be washing their laundry on the river and hanging it on the.
Well, and the
bushes to
people who were
dry.
filling in the potholes, I mean, we complain about ours in Vermont. Madagascar has went up on us.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place for us to stop again.
Miles Supply, your stop for all your general business products, paper towels, toilet paper, first aid kits, and more. Purchase your paper and soap products from Miles, and they'll install the dispensers for free. Do you own a salon, restaurant, coffee shop, or gym making a monthly run to the big box store for your business supplies? Save time with Miles Supply. Call today for a sales visit, 476-3963, or walk directly into their showroom, 143 Boynton Street next to Spalding High School. Miles Supply, family owned and building relationships since 1954.
Welcome back to Thoughts on the Outdoors. Once again, my guests tonight are Joyce Dobbertin, Patty Emery, and CC Flynn. World travel is all. Individually and as a group, they've done a lot of adventures, been a lot of places, a lot of wonderful places a lot of us only get to dream about. Tell me about some of the other places you've been.
One of the last trips that I took, unfortunately, Patty and Joyce weren't with me, but I went to Turkey, and Turkey was absolutely amazing. The Roman culture, Greek culture, as well as the modern culture was amazing. I got to go in a hot air balloon in Cappadocia, which was phenomenal, just floating in the air, watching dogs watch you on cliffs, a couple getting married, waving to us as we went by. But the country itself is so varied. Went to the site of ancient Troy, and I could go on, but these ladies have other places too, and it was just amazing.
Well, one other adventure we did together is when we went over the Brenner Pass to hike in Austria, and they told us it was supposed to snow 1.5 meters. So,
And so we were going to
And
hike
it was
in
early September, so we weren't expecting
Right.
it.
So we ended up hiking in the Dolomites instead.
yeah, in
Okay.
Italy. Yeah.
Huh.
But then
That
we were in snow too.
Yeah.
And when we went to the Dolomites, we didn't have any maps of Italy because that wasn't our plan. We ended up just taking a train and then a bus, and we had a placemat from a small restaurant, and that was our map to go to Italy. That was, with the little things,
Hikers and things.
hikers and
Yeah.
stuff. That was our entire Italian map.
And we ended up in this Bolzano, where Uzi the Iceman is his museum. And a couple of years later, I was able to go to the museum, and it was pretty fascinating to see his seared body.
Yeah.
Generally, you've had a lot of excitement, but the trips have been without major incidents, except, Patty, you got injured once, right?
Yeah. So we were hiking in Portugal along the Fisherman's Trail, and we were about 5 days into it, I think. They'd had an excessive amount of rain, so this little stream became kind of a raging river, and Joyce hopped over it, and this family hopped over it, and I said, okay, here I go. Well, I did get over it, but I didn't stick the landing, so I had an interesting break, but we didn't know it was broken. So Joyce goes, well, let's just walk a little further and see how it goes. And I went, I'm not going anywhere.
So it's
This
good.
is the doctor that just suck it up.
That's right.
Actually, though, it was kind of handy having a doctor with you.
That's right. She made the call for the ambulance.
And also, it's always good on your phone to know how to get your coordinates, because I had to get the coordinates for the ambulance
Yeah.
to come.
Yeah.
And otherwise, they said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "We left 4 or 5 hours ago from this place, but I don't know where we are."
So we got to the hospital. They immobilized my leg, pretty much. That was it. And Joyce made arrangements to get our luggage, which normally gets transferred to the next stop,
Sure.
up to the hotel where we were staying the night before we flew out. And luckily, because she's a doctor, I was seeing the orthopedist. We flew out on Sunday. I saw the orthopedist on Monday, had a surgery on Tuesday, which immobilized the leg further, kind of traction-like, and then Dartmouth a week later. And
So you had the surgery in Portugal?
no.
She
They
was
just-
going home.
That's right. They just got me into a cast.
Okay.
But what was pretty interesting is that there was a medical evacuation, which took a lot of people. Then
Right.
there was about a 2-hour ambulance ride. Then there was the whole ED visit, and this was the day before Easter. And that was the ER doctor, that was x-rays, that was the cast, etc. And when we were leaving, I had Patty's money in one pocket and my money in another, and we figured between the two of us and our
Yeah,
credit
credit
cards,
cards, yeah.
we'd be able to pay for it. And Patty, I came back from paying, and Patty goes, "Wow, it was only $8,900?" I said it was 89 euros.
Which is about $104.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
By the way, during this whole medical incident, were there language problems?
No, the
You just said,
ambulance-
it hurts.
no, it actually didn't hurt. The woman in the ambulance spoke English.
Pretty good English.
The
And
doctor did.
yes.
Oh, okay.
And actually the ambulance, they were very nice people, but they kind of let me do what I wanted to do.
Well, they knew you were a doc.
Yeah.
I was thinking traveling with my doctor friend in Vietnam when I had food poisoning.
Yeah. I said, "I'm going down the street. You can throw up over there."
But when we got to Antarctica, all of our
Motion sickness.
Oh,
They were packed
didn't make it,
and
yeah.
and they were
the
back
luggage
in Miami.
yeah,
But
right.
I'm lucky. I've been in rough water before, so I was pretty sure I'd be okay, and I was. But
I threw up.
Yeah, poor Joyce.
I find that I've never had a problem on the ocean, and some in pretty rough seas and pretty small vessels. But out on Lake Ontario with just swells,
Yes.
that it just seems that'll make me sick.
Really?
Yep. Joyce, you've also done a lot of medical trips, or where you volunteer.
I have. I've gone on 19 at this point.
To where?
To Belize, Guyana, New Zealand, South Dakota. I know that's not an international trip, but I was on an Indian reservation.
Right.
Mexico, Jamaica.
Are those mostly what? A couple of weeks at a time? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because I am still working.
Well, you're still working, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Venezuela, you were there longer. I mean, sorry, New Zealand, you were there longer.
Yes, New Zealand, I was there for 2 months, which was wonderful. I love New Zealand.
Oh, great. Well, our time is about up. What would you ladies want to tell listeners about doing similar travels or being willing to try? What do you give them for advice?
Be willing to try.
Yes.
And not have to. The first several trips, the first decade or so, we were pretty cheap travelers. So we stayed in hostels, and it was much. We weren't in the luxury that we were in recently. And that was absolutely wonderful. The people you meet.
That the man I slept next to in the hut.
I knew enough to get the wall.
So be flexible.
Yes,
be flexible.
And
Exactly.
also traveling cheaply is sometimes a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you meet a lot of interesting people.
You do.
And even
Definitely.
the negative experiences turn out to be great experiences to talk about.
Well, Panama, we won't talk about that one.
Have you got anything planned for this year or another trip?
We're holding off on making plans at this point.
I don't blame you.
Yeah,
I don't want to be out of the country at this time.
Yeah.
Good idea.
But some of the trips take a little time to plan anyway,
course,
so it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe the Arctic next.
Yes.
Well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much for having
I
us.
certainly
Thank you.
would like to have you back again after perhaps your next trip. I'm sure many of our listeners, just like myself, we envy some of the things you've done, some of the places you've gone, and we can at least live vicariously after listening to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that was Gary Moore's conversation he had earlier with Dr. Joyce Dobbertin of St. Johnsbury and Patty Emery and Larissa Flynn of Lyndon. Coming up next, we'll take a look at how the sugaring season is shaping up with our sugaring report, including insight from the UVM Extension Maple Specialist, Mark Isselhardt, and on what producers are seeing as the sap starts to run. That's coming up right after these important messages.
Every business story starts small. As you share your story, it creates movement, and movement builds momentum. Your social media and website are the conduits for that story. It's about more than clicks and views. It's about creating connection, community, and opportunity to do business. It's time to tell your story. Go to northeastkingdomonline.com. Our local Vermont team can help you get more from your online media. Once again, that's northeastkingdomonline.com.
So we're honored to be talking with Dr. Mark Isselhardt, who is the UVM Extension Maple Specialist over at the Proctor Maple Research Center. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm good. But I think you gave me an honorary PhD there. I don't, not a doctor, but we'll roll with it for now.
Okay, we'll roll with it for now. There you go. and so, Mark, one of the this is the time of year where everybody's out en masse sugaring and boiling sap, and I know that I really wanted to have a conversation with you to kind of discuss what is the sugaring season looking like this year.
Right. So if anyone who's listening is going to be somewhat familiar with sugaring. We're talking about making a hole in a dormant maple tree and collecting sap when there's periods of pressure inside the tree. That sap flow tends to be stimulated by weather right during that season, so freeze-thaw cycles really stimulating a lot of uptake of water or sap into the tree, and then we collect what comes out. And it's unpredictable. We know generally when the weather happens, but we can't really say for sure when those sap runs are going to take place. And it makes it exciting, but it also means it's challenging for predictions. It's also something that anyone who's ever done it knows it's each season can be a little different. They're never really the same, and sometimes the sap comes early and ends early. Sometimes it is stretched out throughout the whole season, and other times it's near the end. This year, I would say generally it started as colder than what we've seen the past few years, so a slow start. We're hearing from a lot of folks from around the state. And then we had some snow, but the snow went away with the warm weather and rain and wind. And then we've kind of had a period of above average temperatures, which if you don't get that freeze following the warm weather, you don't get as much uptake of sap into the tree. And so too much warmth is bad, as well as too much cold. So I think producers who've been able to sneak through that really warm weather we had a little over a week ago are probably going to be doing okay. The ones who are in generally warmer areas, or maybe their trees are facing south and really warmed up, those tap holes they kind of get slimed over, and they can become kind of coated to the point where when good sugaring weather comes back, they're just not that productive compared to maybe their neighbors who are a little colder. So I guess broadly I would say we're hearing reports anywhere from as little as a tenth of where folks expect to be at the end of the season, all the way up to, I had one report of someone in Bennington County saying they're around 60% or maybe 2/3 of the way to what they anticipate at the end. And so many factors. The size of your operation is going to dictate when you choose to tap.
Right.
The really big operations in Vermont that have 50 to 100 or more than 100,000 taps, they started back in December.
Right.
And that's just because it's hard to find people that are willing to do the hard work to make syrup. So they start in December by and large, or very beginning of the year, and then that way they're ready when the weather shows up.
Right. And we had some our armchair meteorologists who thought, well, this was a great snowmobile season. This means we're just going to have a great sugaring season. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
It's certainly having a good snowpack, having good cold temperatures, that can lead to a good sugaring season for sure. But what can really overwhelm that is the weather during that 6 to 8 weeks where we collect sap. And I know people probably already know this, but it's good to remember that sap flow is not like this steady thing that starts on day one and then runs kind of evenly throughout the season until the end. It's these really discrete events where sap runs and then it doesn't. And you can make a lot of syrup in a short period of time if the weather cooperates. Right. Some people can make a quarter of their crop just in a 3-day span. Or if that weather doesn't cooperate, you don't make it then. And you have each additional day the season goes on, just time starts to run out, and the likelihood of having a good run becomes lower and lower.
Because you need, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, Mark, you need freezing nights and then warm days. That's the perfect, That's
typically how it shows up. It could actually happen that, the opposite. It could be freezing days and thawing nights, but in general, yes, what we see is that day-night thing happening, and what that does is the tree responds to those temperatures, and because of the unique nature of maple wood, we get essentially this suction that happens. It starts in the finest twigs up in the upper canopy, and it kind of extends all the way down into the roots, and you get this freezing event, and it sucks moisture right up out of the ground, and it combines with some of the tree's stored sugar. And then whenever it thaws out again, it could be a week later, or it could be the next day, it just depends. Then that's when the sugar makers are going to collect that big pulse of sap coming through. And then if they have just buckets and it never freezes again, the sap flow is going to really come to nothing, and they'll just have to wait for the next run or recharge. If producers are using vacuum, they will continue to collect, even though it may not be the same rate of sap collection, but you could go many days without a freeze. If you're constantly pulling vacuum, you'll be pulling some sap out. And, overall, big averages, vacuum will typically produce about twice as much sap compared to buckets.
Right. Yeah, we're talking to Mark Isselhardt, who is the UVM Extension Maple Specialist. And Mark, have you seen, compared to past years, how is this year looking from your perspective?
I'm hearing great reports about qualities, the quality of the syrup. People are pretty happy with that, and the sap sweetness seems to be about on par with what people expect. There was some question about if the drought conditions we saw last summer would somehow influence the sap sweetness. I'm not seeing, again, we're kind of in the middle of the season now, so it's dangerous to make predictions even now, but I'm not seeing any major differences in sap sweetness compared to previous years.
Right. And like you said, too, it's hard to say if this is going to be a bigger crop or not because it's all based off of elevation, geography, all that stuff, too.
Yeah, the weather is so important. The biggest risk right now would be if we get some really persistent warm temperatures. And we saw a little bit of that, like I said, a little over a week ago. And it got into the 60s. Maybe some people touched 70, maybe in the really warmest part of the state. But if we were to have something happen soon where it gets really warm and stays warm for a number of days, then it becomes very hard to have a decent crop afterwards. The sap quality goes down and the sap volume goes down. So luckily nothing too on the horizon looking like that would happen, but that would be the biggest probably risk other than, some catastrophic wind event that would knock trees down. But right. I think, you got to be an optimist when you're dealing with agriculture in any form, and so I think the folks I'm hearing are cautiously optimistic that it's going to be a good season. The other thing to remember is that maple, it's important all across the state, but in terms of the crop, so much of the crop is made in the northern, I would say, third of the state. So you've got Franklin County being the number one county. Lamoille's pretty big in terms of production, even though it's made across the state and is really important. Franklin County alone makes about 1 million gallons of syrup annually. If they were a state and not a county, they'd be the number 2 maple state in the country.
And remind people, what's the percentage of maple syrup that's made in the United States is made in Vermont?
It's over half is made just in Vermont.
Wow.
So we have the biggest number of large producers, and those are defined as, at least according to USDA, anyone over 20,000 taps is considered, the largest operations. But we have producers who are, in 100,000 and even greater than 100,000 taps, which is really only possible when you have modern technology, tubing and vacuum. Sap is heavy, and carrying buckets is not everyone's idea of a great time. So when you're doing that much of it.
Yeah, well, I did that growing up. We had a tractor, and we had we got buckets, and then we put all the buckets in a big vat and go to the sugar house. That's how we used to do it growing up.
Oh yeah, no, and you can still do that, and it's incredibly important, and it's a great way to remember, how much work is involved in making this product. The maple industry has grown quite a bit in Vermont. We make about 5 times the amount of syrup we did just 30 years ago. And so that wouldn't be possible without using sort of more modern technology. You wouldn't be able to do it in a viable way.
Right.
But all of those things are important in terms of the history of sugaring, and if you're just doing it with your family, and it's a great experience for sure, and just even popping a few taps in and learning about it is valuable.
Right. All right. So we're talking to Mark Isselhardt, who is the UVM Extension Maple Specialist. Mark, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate this. I've learned a lot. That's
great. Happy to talk, and good luck to the rest of the producers. Hopefully the season is nice and gentle on the way out, and everyone has a good year.
All right. Yeah. And that was my conversation that I had with the UVM Extension Maple Specialist, Mark Isselhardt, who's out of the Proctor Maple Research Center. And still ahead, we'll check in with Mark Breen from the Fairbanks Museum for our Outdoor Edge forecast. What kind of weather is on the way and how it could impact both your outdoor plans and the maple season. Coming up right after these important messages.
The Autosaver Group St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram asks, do your outdoor adventures take you to where you wish you had a four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive? At St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, explore their vast inventory of adventure-savvy four-wheel drives and all-wheel drive vehicles ready for you to drive at home. Plus, every St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram deal includes the Big Deal Plus, which is a 2-year unlimited scheduled maintenance plan, which includes free state inspections for life. Stop in today in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, or shop St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram online at stjohnsburycdjr.com.
Winter in Vermont is a great time to get outside and explore. It offers experiences for a wide range of abilities and interests. The Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department provides opportunities to take advantage of what the season offers. Visit vtfishandwildlife.com to plan your next winter adventure. You can sign up for a free ice fishing clinic, watch how-to videos, or find a wildlife management area near you for a quiet snowshoe stroll. Vermont Fish and Wildlife is here to help you get outside and experience the outdoors this winter.
I'm Mark Breen. Welcome to the Outdoor Edge forecast. The spring equinox marks the official start of calendar spring tomorrow at 10:46 a.m., certainly a key point on the calendar, though the idea of spring is anything but precise. Is it spring once it reaches 70 degrees? Well, we've done that, admittedly early, but you can check that off the list. Do flowers and green grass qualify as spring? Well, then we're a ways off. There are so many markers. Maple sugaring, bare ground, taking off winter tires, ice out on the ponds, starting in the garden. It's quite a list. Where do we stand in terms of the weather? On the average, the snow cover is usually gone by the time we reach the first day of spring in the valleys, but it lingers into April as you go up in elevation. Temperatures have already warmed, with highs on the average in the 40s in the valleys, lows in the 20s, which fits nicely with the ideal temperatures for sugaring. I suppose that's not a surprise. It's closer to 40 degrees and 20 degrees above 1,500 feet. Even so, we still average more snow through the middle of April in the valleys, ranging from 6 to 12 inches most years, while the hills often see another 1 to 2 feet. Since these are averages, they can range quite widely, like 2 years ago, when the valleys had 2 feet of snow between the first day of spring and mid-April. Another factor this time of year is the wind. Looking through our wind data for the past 15 years, March and April are the windiest months. The atmosphere is still primed for powerful storms thanks to the contrast of the remnants of winter cold and the strengthening sun. Should a major storm pass through and then the sun come out, the heating of the ground causes the air to rise and connect with the strong winds above us. That connection increases winds at lower elevations, so don't be surprised that we'll see some gusty days. The current pattern remains volatile. The western U.S. has seen record heat, but northern and eastern Canada have been quite cold, setting up a strong contrast, energizing the weather pattern, but also putting more extremes on the table. Already this month, we've seen it well below zero, but warming above 70 degrees, a range of more than 80 degrees. The pattern continues to favor spells of cold weather through April, with a trend toward a milder period for early April based on some global differences. I think you can plan on plenty of changeable weather. That includes this upcoming weekend, with one episode of snow or rain later tomorrow into tomorrow night, followed by a second Sunday into Monday. Temperatures will run either side of 32, so it could be more snow than rain or more rain than snow. Naturally, the higher terrain has a better chance of snow, which could give the higher terrain some late winter conditions that would last into next week as cold air follows for the first half of next week, slowly moderating later in the week. It also looks like it might be marginal for some sap runs this weekend. Too cold early in the week, but maybe a little better later in the week. Let's get back to the forecast details for this weekend, which include winter weather advisories north of Wells River on Friday. Tonight, scattered evening flurries or brief snow showers more likely north of Wells River, partial clearing after midnight, lows in the 20s. Friday, some breaks of morning sun, then mostly cloudy, rain or wet snow developing in the afternoon, highs in the 30s. The spring equinox Friday morning at 10:46 a.m. Friday night, snow or rain in the evening, changing to snow but tapering off. Amounts an inch or less in the valleys, but up to 3 on the hills, lows in the 20s. Saturday, morning clouds giving way to increasing sun, brisk, chilly in the 30s. Saturday night becoming mostly cloudy and a rising chance of snow after midnight, lows 20s to around 30. Sunday, we may wake to some snow or a mix of rain and snow, possibly changing to all rain in the valleys, highs in the 30s. That's your Outdoor Edge forecast. I'm Fairbanks Museum meteorologist Mark Breen. Good luck and enjoy our great outdoors.
And that's going to do it for this week's St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge. Big thanks to Gary Moore and his guests, Dr. Joyce Dobbertin, Patty Emery, and Larissa Flynn, for sharing stories from their trips to Antarctica and beyond. It's always great to hear about folks from right here in the North Country getting out and seeing the world. And thanks as well to Mark Isselhardt from the UVM Extension for helping us better understand how this year's sugaring season is shaping up, along with Mark Breen from the Fairbanks Museum for keeping us up to speed on the weather. And as always, thank you for listening, whether you're out in the truck, the sugar house, or just enjoying the day. If you missed any part of this show, catch it anytime at WYKR.com, on the WYKR app, or everywhere you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time on the Outdoor Edge.